All right, it's 8 a.m. So I'm going to start. OSU has me take attendance. So I'm going to call out your name. Normally, how we will do attendance is there will be a QR code up on the screen. I think I'm going to do it at the end of the class, and there will be like a review question, perhaps. And we will answer the review question, talk about it, and then you will just put your name down, and that will count as attendance. We'll talk about how attendance factors into your final grade, but it is important. So if you hear your name, just raise your hand or call out here. If you have a name that you prefer to be called other than the one that I call out, or if I butcher your name, please tell me. I'm recording it so that I can look back and actually learn how to pronounce your names. Okay, so Ibrahim, not here. Rohan,
Here.
Baste Bania, Baste Bania. Okay, thank you. Messiah, Bush Thompson. One for three. All right, Danny Chen. Nice. Okay, Sai Mukul Churuku. Isaac Keen Chu. Yikes. Okay. Brooklyn Page Cochran. Max Cole. Okay. Shafiq Edgar. Wow. Okay. Zoe Shu Endicott. Okay. Tamulin Enkobold. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Jean Richard Fenelon. Perfect. Logan Tyler Fisher. Awesome. All right. Otis Seward. Oh, sorry. It leaked your middle name. Otis Galvin. He's not here. It doesn't matter. Jintian Gan. Is that how you say it? Okay, cool. Richard Gilchrist. Gotcha. Stephen Harrison. Perfect. Muqtasid Hassan. Right. Caden Keller. Right. If you're just coming in, just come up to me after the class is over and then just tell me your name so I can log you for attendance. If I don't call it. Jesse Koo. Youngwon Kim. Perfect. Ania. How do you say your last name? Lulka?
Yes.
Okay. Eduardo Mosqui. So Neil Nair. Okay. Mark Oyster. Perfect. Agna Patel. Right. Christian Pawar. Ethan Singh. Ooh. Jessica Sun. Jay Sundarajan. Right. Arnav Tiwari. Okay. MD Udin. Right. Alyssa Ushiro. Perfect. Maria Vermani. Right. Varsha Viswapriyan. Varun Viswapriyan. Siblings. Gotcha. Yael Yang. Okay. Dyson Yankee. So, Brandon Zamaripa. Okay. Shuzhao Zhao. Okay. If you did not hear your name called, you're probably either on the wait list or in the wrong class. If you're on the wait list, please come up to me at the end of class and give me your name so that I can write you down and get you added to the class roster after this week. If you're in the wrong class, you are welcome to stay. But we will be learning about software components. If that interests you, if you want to make a sudden pivot to CS major, although it's not a good time to be a CS major. Okay, so welcome to CSE 2221. My name is Steven, and I have a little presentation to begin the class. First off, a little bit about me. I graduated with a BS in computer science and engineering last year, so just under a year ago, with an AI specialization. Currently, I'm a graduate student at Ohio State. I'll be graduating this semester, allegedly, if I don't fail this class again. And this is my 5th time going through CSE 2221, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. So I took it, I TA'd for it, and then I taught it. And this is my 2nd time teaching. So I taught last semester. It was awesome. It's going to be even better this time. And then on the side, or as like a contracting position, I work at Vanguard and I do like data science stuff. It's very interesting. But yeah, that's about me. Please do not call me Professor Ignazik. Do not call me Professor. I'm 22 years old. I don't have a PhD. You can just call me Steven. If you really want to be formal, you can call me Mr. Ignazik. That's how you say it, Ignazik. But Steven is like perfectly fine. Yeah. So the basic course expectations. In-person attendance is required to receive full participation points. Participation is 4% of your grade, and I'll go into how that is calculated a little bit later. But lectures are going to be Tuesday, Thursday here in this room, Baker 350, Dries Labs 357. And labs are going to be in Dries 280, floor right below us on Wednesday and Friday. Exams are in person, no exceptions. They are Thursday, February 6th and Thursday, March 20th. And the final is on Wednesday, April 23rd. I would recommend you put these in your calendar now because there's nothing worse than waking up one week and realizing that you have a midterm or a final. So put those in now. Okay. Collaboration rules. Don't cheat. Shocker. Here's a note. If you want to use ChatGPT, go ahead. We are basically playing on modded Minecraft in this class. We don't use like the same version of Java that is used in the real world. We use OSU CSE components, which are kind of separate. So if you ask ChatGPT to write you a solution to a code, it's going to use regular components, and it will be extremely obvious that you have cheated. So don't do it. And if you do cheat, I'm not going to lie and pretend that all of the projects aren't up online somewhere or on Chegg. But you will not learn how to code, and you will get to the midterm and the final where you have to write code on hand, pencil and paper, and you will fail. So yeah, don't cheat. Or do if you want to fail the class. Up to you. Participation is out of 4 points, so you will get a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it will depend on a number of factors. Class participation, like answering questions, so we're not just sitting here in an awkward silence at 8 a.m. Lab attendance, attending office hours, and then a few other ways that you can get participation, which I will go over very soon. Any questions on these basic course expectations so far? Or anything? Awesome. So there are a few different other things that we do. So we do homeworks, which are numerous and tedious, but they're how you learn and practice the course content. They are due before the beginning of the class. So this would mean that if there is a homework, say due Thursday, it will be due at 8 a.m. before that class has started. It's graded on a 2-point scale, 1 point for completeness. Did you do it? 1 point for correctness. Did you actually try? So if there are 10 questions and you just write random things for all 10 questions, you didn't try. And if there are 10 questions and you only did 5 of them, you didn't actually do it. So if you're wondering what you got points off for on a homework, please refer to these slides. Projects are due 1 hour before the beginning of the class. So if there's a project due Friday, it will be due at 7 a.m. on Friday. Why is it due an hour before the class? That's a question I don't have the answer to. It's graded on a 10-point scale. And essentially, the biggest tip I can give you for getting a good grade on the projects is to read the instructions. You would be surprised how many people fail to read the instructions and then just get silly points off because they've missed something very simple. And the labs are not graded, but they are often important or required for projects. So oftentimes you will get to a lab and it will say, start the project, essentially. So one lab might be starting project 5. And that's pretty much it, besides the midterms and the finals, of course. Slack. If you have not already, please join the Slack. It is going to be used for communication throughout the semester. It's very similar to Discord or Microsoft Teams if you have used those before, but it's a little bit better in my opinion. There are a few different channels, which I will go into now. There's the general channel where you can post general questions about the course or anything else, really. And then at the beginning of the week, so on Sunday, you will get added to channels corresponding to all of the assignments that are due for that week. So let's say 1 week there is a homework and 2 labs and a project. You will get added to a homework, 2 labs, and a project Slack channel. And that is where you can ask specific questions about that homework, 2 labs, or a project. I will also make one for the midterm and the final, so you can ask questions about those. I'm pretty active on Slack. I doom scroll it, to be honest. So usually I'm pretty good about answering questions. This is an 8 a.m., so I do go to bed at like 9 p.m. So anything past there, don't expect that I'm going to answer. And don't get mad if it's like Saturday at 11 p.m. and you ask a question in Slack and I don't answer it. Apologies. Okay. What else? And then they'll be archived after that due date. So everything in your Slack, it should be all nice and clean. It'll just be like general, maybe some other channels that you've joined, and then all of your assignments for the week, just as a reminder. Cool. And then here is an example of what that might look like. So you have your 2 labs, which correspond to lab 1 and lab 2 channels. And then you can also ask questions during the lab or after the lab. Let's say you missed it because you're sick or you don't want to show up because it's 8 a.m. You can ask questions about the lab and I'll answer there. And then there's a homework 1 channel as well. Okay, so some Slack etiquette. This is pretty important. This is like a pet peeve of mine, but if somebody asks a question, please do not like reply in a new message. There's a way to reply in a thread like this. So it keeps everything nice and clean. And so if you're having a discussion about a certain problem, you can thread it, and then you can just have a thread of a bunch of different comments about that question. So you can see, for example, this is bad. Stephen says, hey, I'm having trouble with project 1. Can somebody please help me out? And then Stephen Bot, separate entity, says, here's my project number 1 submission. Also the answers to the midterm and the final as well, just in case. This is bad, not only because you can't give out project answers or midterm or final answers if you have them for some reason, but more importantly, honestly, the more egregious crime that was committed was not threading the reply. So please do that. I will reply to you, or I will react with a thread emoji if you forget to thread. And there's nothing more embarrassing than being threaded. Disclaimer, I do not endorse the posting of projects or the midterms or the finals. This will get you in trouble, obviously. Okay, any questions so far? Epic. Okay, so there are going to be a number of other Slack channels that you can join. They are completely optional. They do not affect your grade whatsoever. Because I don't believe that the OSU CSE department does a very good job about conveying information for some stuff. So I've created these channels to help you out a little bit. So scheduling help, if you get to the point in the semester where you're scheduling classes for the next semester and you're saying, hey, should I take 3901, 3902, or 3903? You can post it in scheduling help, and then people, aka me or potentially other students who have taken the class before can say, hey, I took 3902, it was really bad, don't take it. Or, hey, 3901 is very useful, just make sure that you get so-and-so professor, or something like that. And essentially, you can join all of the channels that I'm going to be listing now. Second one, professional development. OSU, again, doesn't do a very good job about how to write a resume. Shout out to Engineering Career Services, actually. If you know what that is, if you ever need professional development help, you can go there. But if you have questions about, hey, Stephen, how do I get a resume? How do I make a resume? I have had students last semester meet with me to go over the resume, ask about tips for interviews, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not out of the norm. Don't feel like you can't do it. But essentially, there's a bunch of links in there for how to find internships, how to find jobs, resume templates, job tracking templates, and all of that is in professional development. It's in a pinned message. So that's a good channel to use as well. The meme competition. I did this last semester and people seemed to like it. So I'm going to try it again. But if nobody submits any memes, we won't do it. So each week, starting next week, you can DM Stephen Bot, who I'll explain very shortly, a meme that is vaguely related to 2221 or computer science in general. Submissions each week are capped Saturday at 11:59 p.m. When I say vaguely related to CS, I have some examples on the next few slides of what I consider to be not correct memes and what I consider to be correct memes. I will submit one as well, and then I will ask ChatGPT to describe a meme for me, and the TAs can submit one as well if they wish. Then each Monday, all of the entries will be posted anonymously, and we will vote on which one is the best. We will keep a running tally of which party wins, me, you, artificial intelligence, or the TAs. And then if you are able to defeat me, prizes ensue. I did lose last semester on some technicalities, but the prize that I did was I made a sample final for the class. So they were able to take a sample final and get the answer key for that. So if that sounds interesting to you, we will do the meme competition. Nothing that will get me fired. I do not want to have to explain to my mother that I got fired. I like my job. Participation will help towards your participation grade. Now, that does not mean you can stop coming to class and you can just submit memes every week and you will get a 4. But say you miss a class or 2, but you are an avid participant in the weekly meme competition, that will count. If I can find your meme on page 1 of a Google search for computer science memes, I will not accept it. And you cannot submit the same meme 2 weeks in a row. Both of these have been tried before. Any questions on this? Yes.
What was your favorite meme?
a good question, actually. Let me sip some water. About halfway through, people realized that they were able to get a lot more votes if they just made fun of me. And the fact that I like can't draw an ampersand and other things as well. So a meta kind of evolved very quickly. I would say my favorite meme, it's a long story. You'll see. Oh, I forgot to add. In addition to me, the AI, the TAs, and who's the fourth party? Oh, you guys. I will be submitting one meme from the previous semester. And so if that one wins, that also counts towards the tally. So you'll see some good memes from last semester. Are there any other questions about the meme competition? Okay, cool. Okay, so here's some examples. So on the left would be an example of a meme that I would not accept because it's low effort. And then on the right, there are some examples of some memes from the first week of last semester. So that would be an example of a good meme or a meme that would count. Okay. Please do not confuse me with StephenBot. We are separate people. If you submit your meme directly to me, I'm going to use it and profit, and I will count it as my meme. We are two separate Slack accounts. So I haven't added StephenBot to the Slack yet, but I will. We look very different, so it's kind of easy to tell apart. Okay, now how to succeed in class, a guide by me. Attend all lectures and labs, participate in class discussions, actually do the labs, actually show up to lecture. I know that sounds simple, but it is an in-person 8 a.m. I understand that is not the most desirable class time to have it at, but actually going to class and actually participating in the labs is the best way to get an A in the class, because the labs, especially doing them, is important for learning how the components and how we actually think about code in this class specifically. And the lectures are where you learn the actual content. Go to office hours regularly. They are there for a reason. I will introduce you guys to the 2 graders that we have tomorrow. They will be there during lab. But Gabriella's office hours are going to be Monday, 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and Wednesdays, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And my office hours will be Mondays and Fridays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. I will add the other graders' office hours when I get them. But here's where you can ask questions about projects, get specific help with a project, get specific help with a homework, something that cannot be explained over Slack, essentially. Okay. Also look back at the feedback from the projects and the homeworks. Every homework and every project more specifically will have specific feedback about what you did correct and what you did, or maybe you can improve upon. And the amount of people that don't look at the feedback and then just keep submitting the same errors over and over and then keep getting points off for the same errors over and over is plentiful. So please look at the feedback from the projects and the homework. Review lecture slides before the midterm and go to any study sessions that may be occurring and do the additional activities if you wish. Each project has additional activities that you can do, and each lab has additional activities that you can do. How the labs are going to work is when you're done the lab, you can leave, but the additional activities are always there under the labs if you need them. This page right here, not this one, I lied. Where is it? This page right here is like, I don't know, like the Bible for CSU 22-21. It has all of the homeworks. It has all of the projects, all of the required readings. And you'll see that, actually, I'll scroll down to a lab a little bit later. But there's usually additional activities, long lab, that you can do. So if you finish the lab 30 minutes early, I would recommend doing the additional activities because it's always nice to have a little bit of extra practice. Okay, any questions on that? Awesome. We are all awake. Another thing, the test bank. This is something that I promote that I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to. But OSU doesn't promote it at all, but you can get old test exam answers like as study materials, and OSU just nobody promotes it. Here's the test bank policies that there are. Usually you have to submit it within 3 days. They get it back to you within 3 days of the request. So essentially what these are exams that a student has taken that OSU condones and says, hey, this can be used as a study material for this class. So there's a midterm 1 and there's a midterm 2 on the CSE 22-21. test bank review form. So essentially, you'll get a previous midterm that is filled out by a student and graded by an instructor, and you can look and see what kind of questions, what the format of the exam is. It's actually the only reason that I passed this class and did well is because I found out about this, and OSU doesn't really promote it. So here I am promoting it. I'll send the link after Slack or after class today in Slack, but I would recommend that you request it for this and any other classes that might be up there that you might be in. There's ones for software too. There's ones for foundations. There's one for systems. Pretty much all of the intro classes. It's very good. They will not be the same, but are a far better study supplement than anything else you will get. It's the note that I put here. Okay. And then we have some reminders. Lab number 1 is due tomorrow, is tomorrow. Homework number 1 is due before class Thursday morning. So 2 days from now, 8 a.m. Lab number 2 is due Friday. And join the Slack if you have not already. Update your profile picture and join any channels that you might want to join. And start thinking about how you're going to win the meme competition, or if you're not going to participate at all. Maybe it'll just be me and the AI for 12 weeks. But that would be sad. Don't do that. Okay. Any questions about the course introduction? Anything? Cool. All right. Awesome. So we will get started then. There's a very short lecture, but we'll probably get out of here early. You're welcome. You're welcome. So introduction to software components. What is Software 1? What do we teach in this class? Well, there are a bunch of different learning outcomes or themes that we like to teach. So the first one is software engineering concepts. So being familiar with sound software engineering principles for component-based, object-oriented software design. So when we talk about programming language, who has used Java before? Oh my God. Okay. Wow. Awesome. Who has used Python before? Okay. Who wants to take a stab at what the big difference between Java and Python is? Yeah.
Java.
Exactly. So Java is what's known as object-oriented. So what that means is that how we reason about things in Java is that everything pretty much is an object. This is compared to something like Python, which is more so like a scripting language. There are ways to make objects in Python, but normally it's just plug and go. Like you press play, it goes. Java, however, is object-oriented. So how we reason about things is objects. You could probably play a drinking game with the amount of times that I'm going to use the car example in this class, but the big way that, or the big example that I like to use is a car. So making a car in Java, a car can have things. So a car can have, let's say, a price or a max speed. A car can do things, like a car can drive or brake. A car can be things, like a car can be a Tesla or a 2002 Ford Escape. That's my car, Ruby. So on and so forth. How we reason about working in Java is that everything is an object, and how we use and manipulate these objects is the bread and butter of this course. You don't really have to take notes on this kind of stuff. You don't get tested on it. This is just stuff that I'm saying. Okay, component-based. So when we talk about components, there becomes a point in this course where we spend a month just going over different OSU CSE components. These are data structures, if you've ever heard of those. So stacks, queues, trees, that kind of stuff. And how these components interact is a big part of 2221 and a big part of questions that get asked in the class. All right. So component-based software engineering, system thinking, mathematical modeling. We'll go into how the concept of an integer translates into Java of actually using integers. So what's the difference there? We'll go into design by contract, which is actually very cool. It's a way to split the work up between a client versus an implementer. And you'll get sick of the amount of times that we bring up design by contract and client versus implementer. We'll talk about components and their relationships, and then we'll talk about single point of control over change and adherence to conventions. We'll teach you how to write good code. My favorite example, who here has ever played the game Undertale? Do you know the example that I'm about to bring up? Okay, every single dialogue in Undertale is a huge switch statement. So every time you talk to an NPC, it goes through their ID and it says, is this NPC 1? If so, then say this. If it's NPC, then say this. And it does that for thousands of NPCs, which if you don't know why that's a bad software engineering principle, you will learn. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we're going to learn, how to write good code. Theme number 2, the Java programming language, being competent with Java programming. Java is a bit of an old language, but it's still very useful, and it's used in a lot of legacy systems. Like we talked about before, it's an object-oriented versus a scripting language, but it's also a lower level programming language. So the way I like to describe it is high-level programming languages are things like MATLAB or Python, where you don't have a lot of control over things. The big difference between high-level and low-level programming languages is the amount of stuff that the language will do for you. So at the lowest level programming language that you could get would be you at the speed of sound, just typing a bunch of zeros and ones into your keyboard. And that would be just straight machine code. But that'd be kind of cool, but it'd be kind of useless. A little bit up from there, you have things like assembly language, where anytime you want to allocate memory, you have to tell the computer, allocate memory for me. And anytime you don't want to use that memory anymore, you say, hey, get rid of that memory for me. And that's very convoluted and leads to a lot of problems. So higher level programming languages will take care of that for you. So you have like assembly, you have like C, and then Java's kind of a little bit like in the middle. So there are some things that Java does for you, such as garbage collection. So anytime you make a variable and then you decide, I'm done with you variable, Java will automatically delete it for you. Whereas in C or assembly, you have to specify that you want that done for you. So it's a good mix between a high level and a low level programming language. And it's useful. And you use it in software too. I'll mention software too a lot. It is, I hope you guys know about the course progression, but after this class, you take software 2, which is essentially just this class on steroids. It follows the same exact, like there's literally a page. Wait, what happened to the schedule page? There's a schedule page for it. The midterms, the labs, everything is exactly the same, except you go in further depth. So everything in this class will be useful for that class. So it's important to do well in this class, or at least know what you're doing in this class. And they use Java as well. Okay, so we will start with the Java programming language. So we'll go over core syntax and features, variables, reference versus value types, interfaces, classes, method objects, inheritance, polymorphism, generics, and exceptions. The first third of this class is going over Java syntax. And seeing as a lot of you guys have used Java before, the trap that often people fall into is they say, this class is so easy, I have already taken Java. And then after the first midterm, we start getting into stuff that isn't that, and they stop showing up, and then the grade kind of goes like that. So don't do that. And then we'll go over input, output. We'll go over Java Swing for GUIs. So there's a project at the end where we build a little calculator. It's awesome. And then we'll go over collections, which are those components we talked about before. So lists, maps, queues, sets. Cool. Okay. Theme 3, industry standard tools. Be familiar with the use of industrial strength software development tools. This is another section of the class that we talk about, but Eclipse is the IDE that we're going to be using. Steven, can I use another IDE? No. I wish you could. I don't like Eclipse, but Eclipse is what we use. Tomorrow's lab is just getting set up with Eclipse. I'd say 50% of the problems that you will have are due to Eclipse and the workspace problems. But the big thing, I'll say it again tomorrow, is read every instruction so very carefully, because it's so easy to nuke your build and have to restart. But Eclipse is an IDE, an integrated development environment, I think. And it's just a place, it's a home for the code. There are many free plugins or extensions, including CheckStyle and Spotbugs. So CheckStyle will yell at you if you do things like accidentally spell a word wrong. And Spotbugs will yell at you if you accidentally do things like divide by 0. So it's just a way to check there. There is no CheckStyle or Spotbugs on the exam, though, because all the exams are in person on paper and you have to write your own code. It's the opposite of awesome. We go over JUnit, which is an industry standard library for unit testing software components. We go into this a little bit. It's a huge part of software too. So you get a little bit of a taste for it now. So if you write a function that's supposed to calculate the square root, how do you know that it's actually calculating the square root correctly? Well, you can write unit tests for it. And then JavaDoc, which is an industry standard documentation utility for Java programs. This is so, let's say you write a piece of code and then you hand it to me and you haven't commented it or written JavaDoc comments for it. And all your variables are just named letters like A, B, X. And I could probably figure out what the code does, but it's way easier to read a JavaDoc comment, which we'll get into, which explains in depth what the function does, what all the variables are used for, and so on and so forth. Questions so far? Great. Learning outcome 4 are professional best practices. So being familiar with Java programming best practices. There is a Carmen page, which I will link now, which has all of the best practices that we consider to be good practices in this class. You essentially, if you're worried about whether or not you're using Java best practices, you can read through that and make sure that your code does none of that. I'll tell you the big thing that people dislike about this class is that you cannot use multiple return statements in functions. And you can fight all you want, but you cannot use multiple return statements. And what I mean by that is you can't have an if, like if something, return this, else return that. You can only have one return statement at the bottom of your function. So just be prepared for that because you can't. And then professional best practices. So the problem, complex language mechanisms make it easy to produce code that is wrong, brittle, inextensible, and hard to maintain, i.e. the Undertale example where every dialogue is just in a big, long switch statement. The solution is that discipline helps, but does not guarantee that developers write better code. So if you follow the solution or the best practices that we consider in our discipline that are laid out in that page that I will link, then you will write better code. So these include naming conventions, coding conventions, and then these two principles that we talk about. So design by contract and programming to the interface. And we also talk about other things like single point of control, but that is for a later date. Okay, so some prerequisites. It seemed like a lot of you guys had previous programming experience. If you have never coded before in your life, it is still very possible to do well in this class. It might just take a little bit of extra work. So you shouldn't know all of these, but you should know generally what is syntax, compilation, execution, what are variables, types, expressions, control flow like if-else statements, and then procedures, functions, or methods. It says that you need to know introductory calculus. I don't know why. The most we ever get with math is maybe some like probability stuff, but we're not going to be like computing the antiderivative in this class. And then the ability or willingness to learn on your own. A lot of this is going to require doing projects outside of the class or studying outside of the class. You cannot just show up to lecture and then be able to fully comprehend things. And if you can, that is great. You are savant. Yeah. What else? 4 more slides. And then the resources. We have class meetings, the Slack, which you can use to ask questions and answer questions as well. If somebody asks a question in Slack and you know the answer, feel free to respond. Do my job for me. The instructor and the graders, that's me. I'll introduce the graders tomorrow. Make sure they know you by name. Visit during office hours or make the appointments. There are a lot of times where I sit in office hours in Zoom alone for an hour and I play Minecraft. And I like that, but I'd rather be helping people. Ask questions and answer questions. So, speaking of which, are there any questions? Yes.
I have one about attendance.
Okay, yeah.
If you let's say you don't participate, but you show up to all of the classes and labs, you get like full credit.
Yeah, probably. I know people don't like answering questions or asking questions, and you shouldn't just ask questions for the sake of asking questions. Like, are there any questions? What's your favorite color, Steven? Like, no, that won't count. I'm not like tracking every time you answer a question, like little point sheet over here. But if you attend every class and generally participate, you'll be fine. Other questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay, gift of time. You guys can get out of here 20 minutes early. Stay out of the news unless it's for something good.